and you open the door and you step inside. Now imagine your pain. Your pain itself is a white ball of healing light. Welcome, everybody, to the Delver's Dungeon, where only first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons matters. Everything else is just another game. It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen by you. Hey, how are you? I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. It's good to see you. And who am I? Who am I to say that it is good to see you? Why, I am none other than Bill Sylvie, the Dungeon Delver. And I hope you're having a swell one this evening, because I'm doing all right. If you're just coming by here, if the algorithm sent you here to me, if the cosmic currents of chance on the internet swept you this way, please click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications, and give the video a thumbs up, if and only if you like it. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Either way, leave a comment underneath and tell me what you like or tell me what you don't like. And we'll change it, or we won't change it. It's up to you. It's up to you. Pellinor Fields, I am so sorry you had a rough day. Shout out to you, brother. Bob Jester, good to see you. Hyper Kaiju, Chris, Bill Trethwaite, Mead, Jack Photon, Collecting Chaos. Startled you, did I? Jack Photon out there getting ready to do some homebrew book binding. That's always cool. Jimmy Invictus, greetings. Hey, Connect, how are you? Oh, Captain, my Captain. I guess you would be the Tennille of the chat area. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Hey, before I get too crazy here and before I get too deep into the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons talk, I just want to give a very special shout out to a guy who hangs out in the chat. He is a cheerleader. He's more than a cheerleader. He's like a yell leader. Like if you ever watch college football and you see those guys that, like, you know, they're running up and down and they got the megaphones and everything and they're like more energetic than the cheerleaders. That's this guy to this show. And it's Tonka Todd. You guys, you know him, you love him. Yeah, I give him grief sometimes on the show, but only because he's an awesome guy and he's always in here telling you guys to like and super chat and join the Discord and so on and etc. He's having kind of a crap day. He's not feeling well today and he lost someone close to him last night. So look, whether you're spiritual or experiential or believer, non-believer, just some positive thoughts Todd's way. Okay, please do that. Some bedazzled thoughts his way. Yes. 4K Minimaster, just curious, last night's Ghoul, was it patterned after Zathras? No, it was not, actually. It was not. Yeah, Big Yehuda, he's not doing so good. A one-shot Blade Runner? Oh, you're talking amongst yourselves. Yes, TJ, we have a Discord. It should be linked in the discussion. Look, for about 3 or 4 days, the Discord links that I was putting in the video descriptions worked. And then last night or today, they stopped. I started getting messages again from people on social media saying, I can't get in through your Discord links. I don't know. But when I went back to Discord and said, well, I'll just send them the link, it said, this will expire in 7 days. I set it to never expire. Never is not 3 days. Never is only 3 days if you're like an ant or a protozoa. Okay? It was super frustrating. Thank you, Father. We talked about ascending versus descending last night, so we're not doing that again, at least not for a while. So I want to make a couple of announcements. The first is the most important one. Don't miss tomorrow night's show. Tomorrow night, Heidi Gygax, Gary's daughter, one of his daughters, he had several, Heidi Gygax and her husband, they will be on the show. Because guess what? They've written an AD&D module. That's right. They've written an AD&D module. It's kickstarted. I'm going to have all the info for you. We're going to talk to them about that project. We're going to talk to them about gaming. You guys can ask them questions out there in chat land. Thank you, OSR Edgelord. I will let him know. Fuchsia, good to see you. Necromancy, hello. Starlaw, greetings. Ricky, greetings. So yeah, Heidi tomorrow night. And yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I'm sorry, Eric. I guess I should say the gentleman's name. Eric and Heidi will be on tomorrow night, and we are going to give them the floor. Honestly, they can have it. It needs a bit of a vacuuming. I'm going to just start over. Hey, thank you, Jeremy Rule. Jeremy is a veteran of the Monday night game. Funny story about Jeremy joining that game. I remember, and I love telling the story, and he's been on the show before, by the way. Jeremy is a very talented musician. He is a polymath. Okay? And that's not polymorph. I do not remember if I told you guys this, but he joined my Monday night game. He and his then wife were getting ready to play in a friend's 5e game. I know Jeremy from just in internet terms. I know him from like the Mesozoic era. Okay. But we were friends on Facebook. We still are friends on Facebook unless something's changed, Jeremy. There he is, Todd. Good to see you. You do not apologize to me. You do not apologize to anyone here, Todd. I want you to sit back, put your feet up, relax. But anyway, so I was gathering people to me like a shepherd with a flock. I was gathering people to me, and I said, you're going to play Dungeons and Dragons with us. I think I said it just like that. Not like, would you like to? I said, you're going to play Dungeons and Dragons with us on Monday nights, aren't you? And he's like, sure. Yeah, I can play for a couple of weeks before my friend starts his 5th edition game up. We've been invited to play a 5th edition game with some friends. 7 years later, he finally dipped out of my game. That 5 weeks that Jeremy was going to stay, expanded, and it was wonderful, and it was great having you in the game. And I hope one day that I will get him back, but he is busy, which I totally understand. Damien says guns in D&D, unless they're sci-fi guns from certain modules, it should be muzzle loaders. That ammo should be used by henchmen. That's up to you. I don't do firearms in D&D unless they came from Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, or very temporarily, as in the bullets in them maybe work, from Boot Hill. Or possibly Gamma World, but that's it. Somebody upstream, up chat, up yours, somebody asked me, someone asked me, who was it? Who was it? 4K Mini Master asked me, last night's ghoul, was it patterned after Zotharus from Babylon 5? No, it was not. The ghouls in Lovecraft's Dreamlands have, kind of a low intellect, but the cutting, and some of them are actually fairly well read. And like with the right wards and permissions and accompaniment by cats, you can go through the ghoul kingdom of the Dreamlands unaccosted. So that is kind of my take on AD&D ghouls, that they are somewhat intelligent, and they are capable of negotiating with party members, but their view of ethics and morality is different from humans. Hence, during last night's game, the lone ghoul, and I was so disappointed. It's like, number appearing 1 to 8. Cool. Roll an 8-sider. One ghoul. His attitude was, you must let me eat you. It's the way things are. I will eat you. No, I paralyzed him. This belongs to me now. I'm going to take this and eat it. There's too many of you for me to eat. I will take this one and I will eat it. And that is how it will be. Kind of like hunters with deer. I mean, imagine deer complaining that you were out there hunting deer, if you're a deer hunter. Another one. Jeremy says, if I'm a polymath, shouldn't I have heard that rule before? Yes. That rule before, that word before. Sure. If I throw any more words at you, do I get paid for those too? Ricky says, I treat them like undead cockroaches that spread by eating people. Well, that's darn rude. Yes, Todd, please put your feet up and relax. You've earned it. I would dare say that I wouldn't have much of the show's success without a lot of people, and Todd is one of them. By the way, Dungeon Minister is there. Please do me a favor. If you're not subscribed to Dungeon Minister's channel, subscribe to Dungeon Minister's channel, which brings me neatly to the next point. I can now say in the past, let me see, I'll just say in the past month, because it's all the way back on January 3rd that I first said, you know what? I got stuff to say about stuff that's going on currently with D&D, because it was when that hit piece from PBS NewsHour came out back on like the 2nd of January. I started dropping a few short videos. Since then, with all the stuff that's blown up with Wizards of the Coast, we have added literally thousands of subscribers to the channel. Welcome to all of you, and thank all of you for coming along. It's just awesome. I really appreciate it. And there's a lot of other channels down here in this little corner of, this little cul-de-sac. There's Dungeon Minister, and I'm going to do a video. I'm going to do basically a tribute video, because I really want to talk to everyone about this. But Dungeon Minister is one of them. T-shirted Historians another. They're small YouTubers, guys. They do great content, and they deserve just as much of your attention as I do. I just have no life, so I put out newsy videos, and another couple are coming tomorrow also, where I will hold court. I will hold 4th and 5th and possibly 6th on many other things. So that is the channel growth is huge. Speaking of channel growth, that's growth. We have our first sponsor. We have gotten our first official sponsor with a capital S from Hellebarde Games. I have ad copy. I'm working on a bumper that will basically, it'll be bumper, opening credits, show. Or possibly opening credits, bumper, and show. I haven't decided what order it's going to be in. It's not very much. So yeah, and it's guys. It's not like, Turtle Wax. We all have cars, right? Turtle Wax. Thank you. Turtle Wax does not sponsor this show. I'm not saying that for real, but they make great RPG stuff. They published a book of mine. You can go there and buy a book that I wrote. But just Hellebarde Games. I'll put the link here. Hang on a second. You can just go right here. They sell many classic modules. They have released a statement about the state of... Oops. HellebardeGames.com right there. They will be sponsoring us. I will do an actual ad read for them. Keg Crusher, those 2 Space Hulk boxes make you very jealous. We're gonna do a Space Hulk show one day. I'm gonna just like I've set up Dwarven Forge before. We're gonna have camera out. We're gonna have the lights and stuff, and I'm gonna do a demo of Space Hulk with you guys. But yeah, Keg Crusher. And by the way, Keg Crusher, I have 3 Space Hulk sets. You only see 2. One of them I don't have a box for, unfortunately. I have 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Ed. I really wish I had 1st Ed Space Hulk and Gene Stealer and Deathwing, but I don't. I've had people offer them to me like, hey man, I'll part with these, $150 each. That's a very nice offer, but that's a little pricey. But yeah, no, we're gonna be doing a Space Hulk demo, I think. And speaking of other stuff that's coming up, let's see. I talked about the sponsor, talked about how many subs we got, talked about Heidi and Eric being on tomorrow night. Oh yeah, in March I'm doing a 24-hour show anniversary show. So yeah, one day late in March I will do a show. I will probably start at 7 in the evening, and then just go till 7 the following evening. Am I missing a First Ed Space Hulk game box? I'm not missing the box. I just don't have the game first edition Space Hulk or Deathwing or Gene Stealer or the missions book. How did I do the illustrations in Temple of the Sun? I didn't. If you're talking about the PDF, those were done for me by an artist who donated his time to make those for me. If you're talking about the PDF from Hellebarde Games, which is way better than my scribblings, those were done by the in-house art staff at Hellebarde Games. In March, I have to do 24-hour show back-to-back with the Guac. No, I don't. I will do the Guac isn't until April. I will need a week to recover. Yeah, the hardcover Space Hulk book was pretty awesome. Someone made a Necron Hulk game online. That's very clever. Anything to put the screws to Games Workshop is fine by me. And hello, Viking Hat GM. Hello, good to see you. He says 24 hours is a bit excessive. I'll live. I'll get a gallon of unsweet iced tea and sit here and pound it. 10K subs by March. Well, if I got 10,000 subs, that would basically require 6,400 more subs between now and March, or basically 5 times the number of subs I got on the most busy day in January for subs. Actually, no, it requires. So not quite that many. I don't math well. Basically, the busiest day in January for subs, I got like 500 and something. So if we say in March goes to March 1st, basically today to March 1st, how many ever days of 500 subs that would be. So unless that happens, I'm not getting 10,000 subs. It's not going to happen. 6,400 more subs until the in-person convention. That's right. 10,000 subscriptions, 10,000 subs on my YouTube channel. And they got to stay, guys. Like, don't go out and go to some Chinese bot farm and be like, I will pay you 1,000 yuan to subscribe to this guy's channel just for a day, so he has to say this. No, I mean actual subscribers. And I'll organize an in-person, in real life convention here in Central Florida. You'll have to come. You'll have to pay your way. I'll have a gate fee and everything like that, because it'll cost money. You guys will have to buy tickets and stuff like that. 178 subs a day. Thank you, Collecting Chaos. See, there's good math. 178 subs a day. If every day between now and March 1st, Wizards could please do something outrageous and stupid for me to report on, I could do it. As it is right now, I'm picking up about 20 a day, so I'm not going to make it. It will never be BillCon. It will never be BillCon. It is the guac. You guys know it's the guac. Great Underground Overland Gaming Convention is what it is and what it will be. So that's all the preamble ramble. Good Lord, I've been talking nonstop about random stuff for the last 22 minutes. We talked about a lot last night. Rock and Donkey says I could probably count on Watsy doing something stupid. Yeah. We talked about AD&D and armor last night, and I want to talk in general. I want to address armor because it's going to dovetail nicely into something about AD&D, because a lot of people have come to me and said that they're interested in first edition AD&D, and I hope approaching the armor system explanation like I did last night helped a little bit. But wait, there's more. There is a kind of it's almost a symptom of AD&D, of homebrewing. I'm not about to decry homebrewing. Zero Option Gamers, good to see you. I have a video that kind of sort of goes hand in glove with a little tale that Zero Option Gamers, but you guys are going to get that tomorrow, about his travails with trying to cancel his D&D Beyond subscription. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But anyway, AD&D First Edition. A lot of people will tell you, a lot of people in the old school community will say, oh yeah, AD&D is very loose and it's very customizable, and you can just knock stuff out and do so. And yes and no. Greetings, Jorge. There are many systems in first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that interlock. They mesh together. You can't just go knocking things out without understanding why the systems work. I'm not saying don't customize, don't homebrew. I am saying, Tunka, you need to rest. I am saying, understand what you're removing or changing and what it's going to affect. Because guess what? AD&D is a fairly tightly integrated system. And now I'm about to go a little bit into armor and explanation of that tight integration. Look in the player's handbook. I'm not going to pull up the PDF right now, but in the first edition AD&D PDF for the player's handbook, you'll note that there's armor, and then there's helmets. Well, doesn't my suit of armor come with a helmet? It sure does not. Well, that's silly. I'm not going to buy a helmet. I'm not going to spend 15 more gold for an elaborate helmet. And so you go on about your business. Lo and behold, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, it's inconveniently located. I'll admit that. Guess what we Dungeon Masters have a rule for? In the overall, if you, the character, go into the dungeon helmetless, the best armor class you can expect is about a 5, because your unarmored head is armor class 9, and an intelligent monster 50% of the time will aim at your head. An intelligent monster 50% of the time will be trying to remove that melon that sits on top of that pretty shiny armored gorget. He's not hitting you here. You've got a 1/16 of an inch of steel. Or nice heavy curboli, or rings, or slats. He's going for this. He's going for the nice, soft coconut with a hair on it. Buying a helmet is essential because we, the Dungeon Masters, have methods aplenty to make you regret it. Because your unarmored head is armor class 9. Your overall armor class is no better than 5. You are in danger if you do not wear a helmet in AD&D. Even a small helmet, something unelaborate. I'm sure Ricky Maru can tell you precisely what every type of medieval helmet is, but just like, the skull cap kind of thing to keep you from having to stagger around with an animate dead spell cast on you and scrape up your own brains to plop them in. An armored fez. So that's what you gotta wear a helmet. And that is one of the subsystems. If you just say you don't have to buy a helmet, that's not correct, because now you've got a whole subsystem that you have to readjust. And larger than that, let's consider this for a moment. What if we wear a purple wizard's hat with a secret compartment that can hold a gold piece? Well, if you're the magic user, your armor class is already just 9. But let's talk about gold pieces for a second. My characters have too many magic items. This is something that I heard when people sang the praises of 3rd edition and later editions of D&D. Yes, I said they sang the praise. Oh, it fixed that. It fixed that. Or my characters have too much money. My characters have too many magic items and they have too much money. And to that, to those people, I'm so glad 3rd edition came along, because now I don't worry about Christmas tree characters with 20 million gold pieces in a tower. Ha ha ha. Like they did in the bad old days of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And so I asked those people, even setting aside gold for experience points, did you charge them upkeep? Did you charge taxes? A party leaves the city of Greyhawk and they come back. There's an entry fee. There are excise taxes. There are yearly taxes. Once somebody catches word that they're spending money like water, guess what? Your next random encounter will not be random. It will be with a city official, and the city official will want the city's cut of 15 to 18%. And of course, if you don't comply, there's a whole, well, we'll just attack the town. We're experienced adventurers. You're not experienced enough to stop 200 to 300 gendarmes. But it is 500 gold piece a month upkeep. Or no, I'm sorry, it's not 5. It's 100 gold piece a month upkeep per level. So a 5th level character is spending 500 gold. That's bribes, largesse, food, drink, revels, that sort of thing. Saying, oh, in the bad old days of D&D, player characters just had too much money and too many magic items. That's not a fault of the system. That's a fault of someone ignoring the system. The system works as designed when it's used as it's supposed to be. Zog, that's right. That is very true. But you have to take things like that into account. If you say gold for experience points and paying to level is silly, don't come crying to me if you leave everything else in place and your characters knock over a couple of young adult red dragons and suddenly you have a money problem in your game. So that's how and why you have to be, if you're not going to charge to level, if you're going to do, what is the current term where you level ding, the DM just says, okay, everybody takes a level, or this ends a chapter and now we level. Then you need to start looking at things like cutting way back on the gold. Now the huge ancient red dragon has 1,000 gold pieces, not 20,000, 50,000, something like that. So you need to adjust accordingly. When you change one thing, you have to change something else. How many times have you been working on a computer, your computer, whether you're computer savvy or not? You change a bunch of stuff, hardware or software, and things stop working. It could be one thing that is affecting everything else. I tell you, back in the bad old days, we had IRQs, interrupt requests, where a piece of hardware or a piece of software would halt the CPU and say, I need a moment of your time. Well, any of you with more than one child know that when both kids start babbling at you at the same time, it is instant chaos. So if you set two devices, software or hardware, or software and hardware, to utilize the same interrupt request, the computer wouldn't boot, or the computer would complain, and neither of those things would work. So you couldn't just go in and start changing things willy-nilly without understanding how everything else worked. So many of the gripes leveled at first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, or original D&D, or even basic D&D, many of those gripes stem from not understanding, not holistically understanding how the game functions. I'm not saying you have to have total system mastery. From a player standpoint, there's very little system mastery you need. We'll see you, Elfbait. Take care. Ashen Wall says, pay to level makes so much sense. I'm just now learning about older editions, and there's a wealth of gold that fills the gaps for me. Thank you. Thank you, Ashen Walls. I appreciate it. OSR Edgelord, take care. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for stopping by. But those systems all mesh together. If you change one, if you remove one, don't then turn around and say, well, the whole system is broken because X no longer works because I did Y. Because then I go back to my computer technician roots and I say, what did you change? Change it back and see if the problem's still happening. No? Well, you found your problem. Or change it back. Is the problem still happening? Yes. Let's change something else. Let's see what went wrong. Lux says, I wish modern D&D still had gold to level. The only reason I don't use it is because newer editions aren't balanced around it. Now, I'm gonna say something. This is gonna rock everybody's world. This is gonna fly out like a Praxis ring or Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country when the computer generated energy wave when Praxis blows up. The one thing I will give to core 5th edition D&D is its relative adaptability. I looked at those rules, and remember, I play tested 5th edition. Grafting in differentiated level or differentiated XP tables and gold to level, it's that simple. If you're playing 5th edition and you want that mechanic in from AD&D, use the differentiated XP tables for classes and just say, okay, I'm taking page 98 out of the Dungeon Master's Guide. And by the way, even if you're not going to use the exact mechanism, Wade A. Parker, thank you. Find a suitable trainer. Exactly. Praxis, good to see you. But the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, to the best of my knowledge, now if you guys who are deep into the stuff that came after Mentor Basic, and you want to bust chops on this and say no, Bill, because it was in there. But as far as I'm aware, 2nd edition didn't have it, and I know 3rd edition didn't have it, and I know 4th edition didn't have it, and I know 5th edition didn't have it. 1st edition AD&D is the first, and to my knowledge, only edition of Dungeons and Dragons that has mechanics, built-in game rules that reward good role play. If you role play your character well, there is a whole machine built in to AD&D to reward you. If your dungeon master ignores that, it alters game mechanics noticeably. And we go back to the why do my players have so damn much money? I said, the king offered them 2,500 gold pieces to rescue his daughter from ogres. They made a counteroffer and said, if she's only worth 2,500, how about we pay you 5,000 and you get your wife with child and then everything's happy. And if your players are doing that, clearly something's gone off the rails. Mobius, greetings. So it comes down to understand what you're taking out. Okay. I know that my Volkswagen has a basic internal combustion engine. I turn the ignition. 12 volts is initiated from the battery to the coil. The coil energizes the starter at 12 volts positive and turns it. The starter rotates the flywheel. It is also pushing 6 volts. It is also pushing 12 volts to the spark plugs. Well, the spark coils in this case, which then go to the spark plugs. The spark plugs are energized as the engine rotates. Valves are opened. The electric fuel pump pulls fuel from the tank, atomizes it in each piston, and more air and fuel is drawn in as each piston drops. At a certain point, an electrical circuit closes. The spark plug sparks. The piston is driven down. The next one over is driven up. There's compression. Repeat this many hundreds of times a second. It's very basic. It is extremely basic. That said, I can't go out there and pop the hood to my car and just start ripping stuff out. This is complicated and in the way. Why did my car stop working? Because I just started ripping things out without knowing what they do. Is it 14, Donnie? I go by my car resto channels and they talk about it being 12 volts, but that's on old iron. So the point that I'm getting at is, guys, you have to understand what you're changing before you just change it willy-nilly and declare that the entire system is broken. I could say, I'm going to make my car more fuel efficient. All this stuff in the engine compartment that's not engine, starter, coil, spark plug, distributor, radiator, fan, fuel pump, oil pump, battery is heavy garbage that slows my car down. And so I go out there and I rip all that stuff out, and we're to a point where things don't work. So to paraphrase Eric Clapton, before you accuse Gary, take a look at the rules. Be sure that what you're about to change doesn't necessarily, break anything else. Case in point of something that doesn't break anything else. Gary has a whole system for insinuative or consumed poisons. I think it's a little jank. I just say an assassin makes something that kills you dead, The vessel with a pestle has the brew that is true. So, I don't use those. And I made sure before I threw those out that there was nothing writing on those. Assassins use poison. They use deadly poison. They don't want somebody who might get sick for a little while. They want somebody who's going to drop dead. So that's what assassins use. So I just tend to ignore that. The various forms. You may come up with a system of government that doesn't fit any of the governments discussed in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So you will ignore those systems. But if you take something out, just make sure that it can be taken out without breaking something else. And I'm not saying that if you take the thing out, that if it breaks something, you can't take it out. I'm just saying you need to patch things so that it will work. Collecting Chaos says, I played in a group for a while that rotated DMs. Some were good and some were, some would go through XP like water. I watched 2 third-level characters at 7th level in a 4-hour play session. Hey, if you guys were grinding, I mean, if you're really grinding, that's entirely possible. But yeah, just be sure that the things you're changing will hold up. Does 1E have equipment maintenance? If you want to put that in, Lux, okay, Lux asks a great question. Does 1E have equipment maintenance? Character upkeep. Now, if you want to get down to the greeblies and say, oil for armor costs 3 copper pieces for a pot. It's not lamp oil. You have to get actual oil. But it is assumed in that cost. Why does it go up every level? If it was 100 a month ago when I was a hero or when I was a veteran, why is it going up now? Well, they know you've got more money. They know you've got more money. So yes, it does, Lux. Equipment maintenance, personal maintenance. That 100 gold. Let's say you've got a particularly fastidious magic user in your party who likes the thinner things in life. And so he's bathing every day. Not just once or twice a week like a medieval peasant would have. He's bathing every day. By the way, the myth of the filthy medieval peasant, no, they kept pretty clean. They didn't understand germ theory, but they knew that the people who, left the pig poop on their feet for days and days and days tended to get that weird fevery sickness that caused all the boils to break out on them sometimes. Fancy robes. And I think Jack hits a very good point. AD&D is a bit more than a framework, but it's not binding. It's not binding terms. And Viking Hat brings up a good point too. Not just because they know you're rich, but you are getting more out of your gear. The 2nd level fighter may stay out in the field longer than the 1st level fighter. Gets a few more holes in those boots. Some more of those rings get ripped off of his mail shirt. If you're a bard, you might have a special friend in town that you need to purchase gift for. Exactly. Yeah, Dungeon Minister, we were hitting a little higher earlier. I'll have to go back and check the metrics later, but no, don't blame yourself. I'll blame you. You don't have to blame yourself. Mike Wilson Art, greetings. We are not playing A3. I just needed that as a thumbnail. Look, I want to address the thumbnail situation real quick. I make terrible. My thumbnails are awful. The best thumbnails that I'm doing are the neon text in the Greyhawk font on a black background. That's all I got for thumbnails. Everybody's been, oh man, Bill, if you'd had better thumbnails, those videos of yours that blew up would have been so much better. I'm like, I know. I don't know how to make thumbnails. I don't know how to do it. So I had people suggesting a few things to me, but we're not playing A3 today. It is a great module, and I'll tell you, we've had the author on the show before, Mike. Alan Hammock. He's a friend of the show. He comes on here frequently, and I hope to have him on again soon this spring. He has got some D&D projects, but we're going to let him talk about those. Todd, if you don't go lay down and relax, don't worry about what we're doing tonight. Like I said, Todd's our yell leader. Todd is our spirit leader. He is out there, you know, in his white outfit with the red piping down the legs, yelling, "Let's go, Bama!" Except he's yelling, "Let's go, Delver!" Because Todd, just between you and me, I think he's probably gone now. Tonka Todd, huge Alabama Crimson Tide fan, which makes me so happy. What is the history of the Sword of Lions? Find out. So, in Assault on the Area of the Slave Lords, A3, there is a short sword which is invisible. You literally have to trip over it to find it in a pool of rancid whipped cream. I'm not making that up. Oh no, Tonka's feeling so bad. He's got a fever and he's just talking gibberish now. I'm so sorry. I don't know the specific history of it. Mike, I tell you what, I will ask him. I will ask Alan before he's on the next show, and I will let you guys know. Do I like Blade of Vengeance by Jim Bamber? Haven't read it. Do you recommend it? Haven't read the DMG in many years. What would I suggest is a good place to start? Just start at the very beginning. You can skip over the bell curve stuff. Unless you want a lesson in bell curve statistics and probability, I would just jump into character creation. It doesn't tell you how to create a character. It talks to the DM about how the players will create their characters and what you, the DM, will do with their characters after they're created, their starting ages, any previous skills they had in life, that sort of thing. Dungeon Minister is not even a college football guy, and that was awesome. Kesadrith, greetings. But yeah, so let's, I'll pull the PDF up for this. I'll do that. Let's see. Dungeon Master's Guide. So after the bits about statistics and bell curves, almost immediately we get into some specifics about characters, and I'll bring this up and we can kind of look at this together. Listen, if you don't have a Dungeon Master's Guide and you want one that is not going to cost you a mint, then unfortunately I got to recommend you find a PDF and get it printed on demand. Yeah, Wade, you can break local economic systems with a party. So let's share screen. I love how I have to click like 6 things. Oh, and it's just the same notion over and over again to get something on the screen here. Okay, so we're here. And this is what I'm talking about. The preamble stuff by Gary, it's good to get a feel for how Gary is going to approach the book. Thank you, Viking Hat. I'm going to put that there. So you can start with the introduction. And I want to read these 3 paragraphs because this is foundational. This is essential stuff here, guys. The format of this book is simple and straightforward. The first sections pertain to material contained in the player's handbook, and each pertinent section is in corresponding order. Much information was purposely omitted from the latter work, as it is data which would not normally be known, or at least initially, to a person of the nature which this game presupposes, i.e., an adventurer in a world of sword and sorcery. Basically, a player who has this book could meta-knowledge and have their character looking behind the walls of reality at the mechanisms of the universe. And you don't want that. It is incumbent upon all DMs to be thoroughly conversant with the player's handbook, and at the same time, you must also know the additional information which is given in this volume, for it rounds out and completes the whole. While players will know that they must decide upon an alignment. For example, you, the DM, will further know that each and every action they take will be mentally recorded by you, and at adventure's end, you will secretly note any player character movement on the alignment graph. After the material which pertains directly to the player's handbook comes the information which supplements and augments. There is a large section which lists and explains the numerous magical items. There are sections on which the development of the campaign melu, dungeon design, random creation of wilderness and dungeon levels, and the development of non-player characters. In fact, what I have attempted is to cram everything vital to the game into this book so that you will be as completely equipped as possible to face the ravenous pack of players lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce upon the unwary referee and devour him or her at the first opportunity. Gary knew what was up with you people. He knew. Thus, beside the systems, I have made every effort to give the reasoning and justification for the game. Of course, the ultimate reason and justification is a playable and interesting game, and how much rationalization can actually go into a fantasy game. There is some, at least, as you will see, for the game is fantasy. There is a basis for though the game is fantasy, there's a basis for much as what is contained here, and even though it be firmly grounded in worlds of make-believe. And while there are no optionals for the major systems of advanced D&D, for uniformity of rules and procedures from game to game, campaign to campaign is stressed, there are plenty of areas where your own creativity and imagination are not bounded by the parameters of the game system. These are sections where only a few hints and suggestions are given, and the rest left to the DM. So you see, guys, as explained and justified right there, you want overall uniformity between games and campaigns. You want to take Bob the Fighter from Bill's campaign to Kyle's campaign to Jimmy and Victor's campaign. This provides the rationale for the framework of conformity across those. What page is Rocks Fall, Everyone Dies on? TJ, that's actually in the player's handbook. It's called Meteor Swarm. Now, Lux, you make a good point. If a player is going to DM, they'll need to read the DMG at some point. It may have been more forever DMing back then. I had one person on the Monday night game, Dan, who took up the mantle of being the DM, and God bless him, he did an amazing job. And I remember he would PM me and so forth and say, wow, the Dungeon Master guy, this is a lot of information. I was like, yep, it really is. We'll see you, Dungeon Minister. Sorry I missed you. The tone of D&D can be epic fantasy, but I think it's more low cunning and skullduggery than it is Lord of the Rings. It's more Fafhrd and Grey Mouser. The epic fantasy is more of the Three Hearts and Three Lions variety than it is Lord of the Rings. You can pull off a Lord of the Rings type high fantasy setting with AD&D just fine. It's all in how tonally the Dungeon Master presents it. You just have to trim things way down, because I don't think the professor necessarily would have had beholders and air elementals and all that jazzmatazz roaming all over Middle Earth. And in fact, he didn't. Did anyone ever keep one of those graphs for players? Do you mean the alignment charts? Yeah, I mean, you kind of keep an eye on that as a DM. Generally, I tend only to think of the most egregious, outrageous things, the so-called lawful good fighter who says, all right, if the killer's here in town, we'll simply nail every door in town shut and burn every building down. That makes perfect sense to me. That's not a lawful or good act. It is not. Yeah, I mean, that obviously merits a serious move on the alignment chart. And if you're playing a paladin, even a move within the range of lawful good could cost you your paladinhood. A little hiccup. Damien says, depends on what strata of epic we are going for. Are we going for Lord of the Rings or Star Wars? Yes, exactly. Exactly. What level of epic? I mean, Star Wars is very lived in science fiction. Think of how the Millennium Falcon looked inside. Mos Eisley. And the only clean, slick stuff we see in Star Wars is on the Death Star and the Imperial Star Destroyer. Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie, and even R2 and 3PO look really out of place. R2 and 3PO are dinged up and tarnished. You know, Chewbacca is Chewbacca. Han is in just, you know, his space cowboy pirate outfit there. You know, Leia's in a white dress, but let's face it, it's, you know, it's pretty grungy by the time she makes it off the Death Star. She doesn't have time to change when they get to Yavin. And Yavin base, you know, that's just a hodgepodge. It's just, put those server racks over there, just run the cabling back over here to the holo display so we can, you know, we can monitor. You know, they're not like the Empire where it's like everything clean down to the last micromillimeter and so on. Yeah, that's hilarious. A group of players who burned a small city down, and when later informed of that, there was a silence around the game table, and then someone said, "Did we get XP for that?" Ha! If the player character has gone past level 10, we're going full Marvel Comics. That's a whole other level of epic. Yes, true. Clean, but without handrails. I like how you describe that, Jorge. After a while, I banned DMG from players used during the game. I think the last person that pulled out the rules got a big surprise when they turned around and ground started shaking and opened up to reveal a very angry red dragon that 9th level player characters would have a trouble with when they were around 4th. That's one way to do it. That'll you know, you burn your fingers. I think TJ is calling you out, Viking Hat. I think TJ is calling you out. So there's just a little bit of something to understand before you go pulling things out of context, out of the DMG. You have to understand the context the rules exist in before you can go majorly changing them. If you're going to do event leveling, you're going to have to adjust treasures and that sort of thing accordingly. So here's a thought about the Death Star, and I've wondered about this since I was an adolescent, at least. The Death Star, had it survived, setting aside the whole use as a terror weapon, would have been an amazing gold bricker's paradise. Think about it. Millions of crew on that thing, right? Just go on and get lost. Never do a bit of work in your life. And it was clear there were places on the Death Star that even the Empire, even as young as the Death Star was, they already had a Dianoga in the trash compactor. There had to be closets and storage spaces and so on. You could just set up shop. Just don your armor or your uniform, go down to the canteen, grab your 3 square meals a day, then skip on back home. Because where you're supposed to be is hundreds of kilometers across the planet. Nobody's going to know you. Hey, who's that guy? I haven't the faintest friggin' idea. I mean, I had friends who were in the Navy. They served on aircraft carriers. And they told me, yeah, there were neighborhoods on the ship that you just never went to, you never saw. It would behoove you to learn as much of the ship as possible. And most of the time when you're on cruise, learn other jobs. The easiest way to make friends on the ship and get ahead in the Navy when you serve on a ship is learn other jobs, is go to people and say, can you teach me what you're doing? Player intelligence does not equal character intelligence. That's darn right. Which I feel bad. I'm not a terribly smart fellow. And I feel sometimes it's like, my character is mastermind. I have 18 intelligence, 17 wisdom. Cool. What do you think we should do here? Bill has no idea. Mastermind has a pretty good notion, but Bill has no idea. Hey, Danny H. Navy. Yeah, I was just talking about friends that I knew who served on big ships and in the Navy, particularly carriers. That a nice way to basically to become a popular person, as it were, is to learn other jobs on the ship, to ask about things, to gain knowledge. As long as you weren't don't wander up onto the flight deck during alert 5s and say, hey, can somebody teach me how to mount a Sidewinder missile on an F-18? You're not going to be a popular person then. But Baron von Headbanger learned ordnance and airframes, even though you were electronics. There you go. But yeah, to go back to the Death Star thing, just live on the Death Star. I remember back before Lucas started doing deep world building like he did, people used to speculate how the Death Star worked, and I thought it was so cool. It was in Starlog or some other magazine, but they talked about basically if whoever wrote this was if you got assigned to the Death Star, you were on the Death Star forever. You never rotated off. And there were retired, stormtroopers would do a full tour and then they'd retire. They'd basically be retired reservists. And it described parks, indoor parks on the Death Star that were miles across for, trooper recreation. I think that's a bit of a utopian view. Maybe that was Imperial propaganda. Come serve on the Death Star. We have shopping malls. We have whole neighborhoods. We have small cities on here that are nothing but for civilian relaxation. You show up, and even though this thing is the size of like one of Jupiter's moons, it's like, here's your 5 foot wide, 8 foot tall, 6 foot deep sleeping space, trooper. But you have all this room. Yeah, and we have 99,999,999 guys just like you who need a bunk. You were on the Death Star forever. You never rotated off. That was true. Every plank owner on the Death Star now wound up being permanently stationed there. Miss Bella Games, your father was a CB 24 years. Salute to your father. Thank you very much. Thank your father very much for his service. Who needs authorization when you've got a clipboard? That is very true. That is very true. Let me tell you something. If you worked in an office park and you wanted to go into an office building after hours that had like a security station outside, this was in the late 80s to probably the mid 90s. Walk up at any hour of the day. Just get yourself like a blue jumpsuit, a roll of paper towels, a bottle of Windex, and a clipboard. Walk up and knock on the door to get the guard's attention and say, they locked me out. Oh, okay. And walk in. I'm going to sneak in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. No, just act like you're supposed to be doing it. There's a story, and I don't know how true it is, speaking of Star Wars, and I know we're not talking about Lucas here, we're talking about Steven Spielberg, but Steven Spielberg alleges when he was a kid, he got a cheap suit and a briefcase and a portable typewriter and walked onto the Paramount lot looking like he was supposed to be there and just waved at the gate guard, and the gate guard waved back. After weeks of trying to sneak on, he finally cracked the code and just looked like he was supposed to be there. What was in his briefcase? His lunch. And he found a vacant office, walked in, sat down at the desk, and started writing and started sending people script ideas. And I remember when he said that he was like giving a speaking this sometime about this and said, it won't work anymore. I've already done it. Don't try it. Crimson says, when I was a runner for a law firm, I got into so many secured areas by dressing nice and smiling at people and just walking by. Yup. I wonder if they had 10 different ways to serve a hamburger and rice in the Death Star galley. Do you know how many kosher meals we have to make every day? Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that if Jerry Seinfeld boosted that notion of just walk in and do things. But that is that is Spielberg's story. How true that is or is not, I don't know, but it's a very amusing story. No, Danny, that's not off topic because we talk nerd stuff here as well. And I'm going to put this up on screen because it's a good question. What are my thoughts on Disney's statement about the expanded universe not being canon, but then featuring several expanded universe abilities, etc., in subsequent new shows? Disney is a two-faced, lying, rotten company that will cut your throat and leave you for unalive in a heartbeat. If Star Wars canon called for them to come to your house, Danny, and stab your mother with a screwdriver, and they thought they could get a ratings bump doing it, guess who would show up at your front door tomorrow? Them declaring the expanded universe non-canon and then turning around and taking stuff from it to suit their agenda, because even they realize that their current crop of writers are awful and they are bereft of ideas, surprises me not in the least. Surprises me not in the least. Let me tell you, you guys can't see it, but I have Star Wars up above me. I have the 3 movies in a box Laserdisc format. It's the last of the unaltered movies by Lucas. I have a toy Millennium Falcon from when I was 10. I have a toy X-Wing Fighter from when I was 8. Down here, I've got a box of Star Wars figures. Somewhere around here, I have the novelizations, and I have some other goodies and odds and ends from Star Wars. That's Star Wars. This thing that Disney makes, it's not. It's not. Collecting Chaos says, I did Sergeant Major shortly after I joined the Army, had me a pen and a clipboard, and told me to walk around battalion and write down anyone's name that stopped me. By the end of the day, I had none. Star Wars radio plays, yeah. Radis 138. No, it's 3. It's 3. I'll accept 4. I'll accept 4. You're quite welcome, Danny. Oh, I've got the vets talking, and that's fine. I'll tell you guys, and this is some story that my father told me, and I told this story. Sorry, everyone's ears if you're listening on your iPod, and I just shoulder rolled my mic there and go, ah! But I will tell you a funny story my dad told me about military authority. When my father was in the United States Air Force in 1960, and he was stationed in Texas, he was an airman. He was not going to be an officer. He thought he would do his 18 or 24 months. No, I agree with you. We had fun at Disney up until, I would say, probably the early 2000s even. Because we have kids, and we would get year-round passes every so often, and we would have fun taking the kids. It was just like, oh, it's Saturday. What do you want to? Hey, you want to go to Disney? Yeah, let's go to Disney. And we'd load up the kids in the car and go to Disney until they were tired, and then we'd come home, because I live here in Central Florida. But anyway, to continue. So those of you who are in the military may not know this. You may know this. Maybe it changed. But at the time my dad was in, when you would salute a superior officer, I know that's not, like, my fingers are not in the right position or whatever. Don't at me. But when you'd salute a superior officer, they're not required to salute you back. They are required to acknowledge your salute. So a superior officer could have turned and looked at my father and said, "Airman," and gone on about his business, or even just a curt nod. Counts. The reverse is not true. From a superior officer, you better have your hand coming up as his is to return that salute. My old man and his friends would sit out in front of the PX on a Saturday, waiting for brand new minted second lieutenants to come out of the PX, grocery shopping with their families, wife with baby in arms, them with armloads of groceries, and see these fine young gentlemen coming and snap them a salute. Whereupon they would stop and proceed to attempt to juggle around, hand off the groceries to their wives who already had stuff, turn around, set the things down to return a salute. They didn't wait specifically just for that. It's just if they happen to be there. So that's I didn't stand the watch. There was not a lot of call for horribly nearsighted fat guys in the military. I mean, there might have been, but I asked the recruiter on campus in 1988, which means if I had joined, I probably would have wound up spending the summer of 1990 in Saudi Arabia, then Iraq, possibly Kuwait. But yeah, I said, could I be in armor? No, you're probably too tall and too broad-shouldered. Okay. You need to be 20/20 to fly. Now you can be surgically corrected with LASIK to fly. Yeah, you have to be 20/20 to fly and so on, and, officer school and everything. Okay. Well, that's it. And I just moved on. Bob says we used to do that to JGs. You know what I'm talking about. Wade says, after my group played 3.0, 3.5, and Pathfinder 1, you grown tired, you had to get... Okay, I want to ask you guys something. If you don't follow me closely enough on YouTube, Thrifty Steve has had it done to him as a fresh butter bar. That's awesome. That's awesome. That like brings Dad's story closer to me. That makes me so happy, knowing that that's a thing. But I want to show you guys something, and I want you to tell me, I'm not going to do it tonight, but I want you guys to tell me if this is something that you guys would want to see me do a deep dive / unboxing of on the channel. I need to lean over to get them. I'm not going to show you, my ass crack in doing so. So I'm going to stand up and walk around here. So I have these sets. I have the wood grain swords and wizardry. No, this is not an AD&D set. Okay, look how thick that bad boy is. Look at that chonkster. But this is the swords and wizardry complete box set from Mythmere Games, or Frog God. I'm sorry, Frog God Games. Do you guys want to see an unboxing of this on the live stream one of these nights? Let me know, and we'll do that. I'm going to set this out here on the table. Next question. Oh, Thrifty Steve, you're out there with Luke. Very cool. I have this car battery weigh-in mofo. This is old school essentials. Do you want an unboxing of old school essentials? I see. Yes. 1A says sick. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Keg Crusher. Yes. Bob Jester. Yes. Mobius. Car Wars. He is a singular man. You will get Car Wars, Mobius. But in addition to, this is like your dad trying to explain that you can have more than one scoop of ice cream. You absolutely can have chocolate. Do you want something else also? Doomsword wants sword and wizardry. Thrift. So we'll do those. We'll do those next week. And also next week, we are starting the deep dive into the Lost City B4. Not before, but module letter B, number 4. Dave Mill says, yes, get on with Matt Finch. Matt's been on the show before. I love Matt to pieces. TJ is lagging so far behind. Ashen Walls says, yes. Ashen, have I talked to you in the YouTube comments? I feel like I have. So we'll go through those. Unboxing in comparison with one. You don't ask for much, Diore. I would like a line-by-line comparison with original Dungeons and Dragons. Oh boy. Old School Essentials is your favorite thing in gaming currently. Well, very cool. Then hopefully you'll enjoy a fresh set of eyes on the box. I have a donor in mind. So we'll go through those. Now, I've opened the box and kind of briefly looked through them like, oh, yep, that stuff certainly is in there. Isn't Old School Essentials based on Moldvay? I don't know. We'll find out. I have a Moldvay set. We can do a quick unboxing. If you've never seen Moldvay Basic, we can do a quick unboxing. You guys want to see like a quick unboxing of a Moldvay set? Because I have one here. I asked for a Mai Tai with no salt, and it's got big salty, crusty salt grains on it. A video about my favorite modules. I've done deep dives on all of my favorite modules. You'll have to go back and watch those. And it is Moldvay and Cook, yeah. I thought so, Ashen. I thought so. I thought I recognized you. The text. You know. Sorry, I had a bunch of dice. I didn't want to drag them up. So yeah, we'll do a quick unboxing, and then we'll wrap up for the evening. So I found a seller who was kind enough to sell me a distressed basic set box. So this is what you got. This is what you pick up from Kmart or from the checkout line at Target back in the day. The princely sum of $10, this would set you back. The cover art is, of course, by Errol Otis. The back kind of shows us what we get, and it indicates dice, a module, and a rule book, and, of course, the box. This one has a large bald spot because of a tape tear. So let's open this up and take a look. So this has a hole punch. If anyone has a good recipe for repairing these, at least so that doesn't punch through again, I'd appreciate it. So we'll put this out here. A cracking unboxing. Now, we are first confronted with our dice, which are already colored in. And guess what? This is an actual set of dice for a Moldvay basic set. So we have our dice. But next thing we see, we have Gateway to Adventure 1981 product catalog from TSR, wherein we can read up on several other products. Look at their t-shirt line. I got to figure out how to pirate these t-shirts for myself. Like just do a high quality image scan of all of those and take them to a t-shirt shop and have t-shirts printed up. But this has a lot of stuff in it. We've kind of done a deep dive on this already. It's a catalog with a table of contents. So our basic and expert sets on the first page. How many of these did you get when you were a kid and just throw out? And now these go for like, I've seen these sell for upwards of like $30 or $40 on eBay. Dungeon modules for basic. Now, interestingly, even at this point, even in 81, you could still get the Blue Holmes basic D&D book. D&D expert modules coming in 1981. D&D expert playing aids, player character sheets. And then, of course, we have Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. We have the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, Deities and Demigods Cyclopedia, Dungeon Master's Screen, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Player Character Record Sheets, Dungeon Master's Log. By the way, if you can pick up one of those in minty good condition, do make copies of the inside of it. But it's a very handy thing to have. Dungeons & Dragons Player Character Folder and Adventure Records Lot. That's one folder for a single character, and it's pretty neat. I have one around here. We should take a look at it one day. Non-player character records, the Rogues Gallery, Village of Hamlet, Ghost Tower of Inverness, Hidden Shrine of Tamacon, Against the Giants, Queen of the Demon Webs, the D series, the S series. Now, here's something interesting. Listen to this. The S series, S1, Tomb of Horrors. S2, White Plume Mountain. S3, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. S4, Dwellers of the Forbidden City. That's right. Not Hidden Shrine of Tamakon, Dwellers of the Forbidden City. And then the Slavers series. We're into board games, boxed fantasy games, Dungeon, Warlocks and Warriors, Divine Right, Knights of Camelot, Top Secret, Boot Hill, Gamma World, Fight in the Skies, Snit's Revenge, The Awful Green Things from Outer Space, Fourth Dimension. You know what you could still get in 1981? An OCE. You could still get a white box set from TSR. And you could get Greyhawk, Blackmoor, Eldritch Wizardry, Gods, Demigods, and Heroes, Swords and Spells, and Chainmail. They still sold those. The World of Greyhawk, Dragon Dice, Monster and Treasure Book, the M&T assortments, that's right, Dungeon Geomorphs, Hex Pads, future releases, Mad Mesa for Boot Hill, Rapid Strike for Top Secret, Legion of Gold for Gamma World, mini games, Saga, The Age of Heroes. I believe that's something you got a copy of recently, isn't it, Luther? Galactic Arena, They've Invaded Pleasantville. A mini game based on the legend of Count Dracula. It doesn't give it a name yet. And then they have a beautiful spread of Dragon magazines. And you could get back issues. America's premier game convention, Gen Con Game Fair. TSR Hobbies is proud to sponsor the Gen Con Game Fair, America's premier national gaming convention. Every August, thousands of enthusiasts from all across the country come to participate in a broad spectrum of gaming activities, and so on and etc. And that is awesome. That is in the book. Next item up, we have the rule book. This guy, 3-hole punched, so you can slip it right into a ring binder. And we have our rules here: monsters, treasures, all sorts of stuff. There's a whole universe crammed in right there in levels 1 to 3. Yes, Pool of Radiance is that. And finally, we have a rather distressed copy of Keep on the Borderlands. So we have our first ever module here, Keep on the Borderlands. This is a wizard logo. And the rather beaten up and 3-hole punched by previous owner interior module. Anything else? No, that is it. That is the contents now of a basic D&D set from back in the day. Battle damaged. I like that. This is a great nostalgia trip. I miss those days so much. Still play AD&D on the rare occasions you get to play. You're in the right place, Dram. Hello, Red J. Good to see you. What did I do with the... There's the cover. What did I do with the catalog? Did you guys see what I did with the catalog? Well, it's around here. Oh, nope, that's not it. So that's kind of how we do our unboxings when we do unboxings around here, guys and gals. So I got to tell you guys something funny. This is... Lux A. Max asked a great question. I'm going to have to scroll back. Before this ends, you need to ask a question. So I'm not going to give my money to WotC. What's the closest thing to first edition AD&D I can recommend? Get first edition AD&D from eBay. Or find a local used seller who has copies that's willing to part with them for not a ton of money. That is my recommendation. Failing that, Osric. Osric is probably your best bet. Goodman Games did make a 5e version. I have it over here. It contains several different print versions of Keep on the Borderlands. Because understand, Holmes Basic D&D was a different rule system than Moldvay Basic D&D. Holmes is much closer to advanced D&D in many ways. So the module had to be adjusted to go more along with this rule system. So it went through some revisions. No, crab, no. So I got to tell you guys a funny story about the crab. This was hilarious. And if the person that I was talking about this today is watching, I think this was funny on both our parts. Guy pings me on Twitter today and says, what I presume, Mad, our conductor, hand pink waving Holmes is actually closer to OD&D. No. I mean, I don't agree with that take because it references AD&D many times, but I'm not going to argue about it. Is it right? I mean, I have my opinion and you have yours. So anyway, fellow messages me today and he says, "What's with that blue crap on your monitor? You from Maryland?" And I'm like, and I'm sitting over there and I look over here and I'm like, blue crap on my monitor? And there's a few items. There's these Star Wars technical manuals and Battletech books, and the spines of some of the D&D books are blue, and Dungeon is blue. And I'm like, and I think about this for a little bit, and I said, what? Why? Do you have a problem with people from Maryland? And then I glance over here again, trying to figure it out, and it occurs to me his autocorrect, instead of saying crab, corrected crab to crap. Crabs, of course, are big fishing communities up in Maryland. So he was actually asking me if this was a Maryland thing. Blue crab. So we both had a good laugh about it, and we were talking for a little bit more, but I just thought that was funny. So all that blue crap all over your monitor. Well, hey, sorry. Dungeon is a fantastic game. Yes, it is. Like Invisible Horse to Invisible Fils de Joie. Ducking autocorrector. But anyway, that was something that funny. So that's why we like our blue crab. And if you're wondering why I have a blue crab sitting on my monitor, well, as I told him and as I've told you guys, I needed a cheap pre-painted miniature to use as the crab to fight in the boiling bubble in Dungeon Module S2 White Plume Mountain. And this is the international sign for crab attack. Anyway, so I had this guy one day delivered to me on eBay, and it's just like, you get a fishing net and you hang it up in there in your cheap seafood restaurant. So that's why we have that. And that's why he's kind of the unofficial mascot now. So that answers that. White Plume Mountain is an incredible module, and many of you I don't think have seen this, but I built the entirety of the inverted ziggurat in miniature for my when I run White Plume Mountain. Would you guys who haven't seen it like to see the menagerie, the inverted ziggurat, where you fight, you've got a row that's got scorpions, and then you got sea lions, and you got crayfish, then you got the manticores at the bottom. Would you guys like to see that? If you'd like to see that, we'll wrap up the show with that. So you guys let me know, and I'm going to look around. What did I do? Did I turn around? Did I set it there? Is that it? No, that's not it. I'd be losing my damn mind. It's not there. I put it there and put it there. Set it there. I gotta be going out of my gourd. It's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It didn't just fall into the void, did it? Lexi, did you eat it? No, she didn't eat it. That's yes, yes, yes. 2 paperback horror books based on crabs for $100. That's great, Jimmy Invictus says. We got to show him that. Danny says he wants to see it. What Sam Hill did I do with that thing now? I'll have to keep looking for it. Fell into the portable hole. It might be. Paladin ZX says yes. Ashen Walls wants to see it. The cat answering me was adorable. Yeah, that's my wife's kitty cat. But she's got this little Tigger chair she sits on. It's next to me. It used to be the kids when they were toddlers, and the cats just over the years of various laid on. Kitty cat's down here. She's my co-producer. Hang on. I am getting the menagerie. And here we go. That's it. Not very interesting to look at. The bottommost part there, that is a hole because I can build the bottom part of the menagerie out of Dwarven Forge, the final level where there are manticores. And the walls are, of course, made out of cut plexiglass, which is something I will never do again as long as I live. That was a massive pain in the butt. So that's it. That's the menagerie. I have enough Dwarven Forge that I can set up the entire of White Plume Mountain and have the menagerie. The menagerie is not Dwarven Forge. The menagerie is Bill Forge or whatever. However you want to call it. I'll bring it a little closer to the camera. And you guys can see the clear walls there. And it is to 28 millimeter scale. I'm quite proud of it. It is styrofoam, and the paint is just Reaper, or not Reaper. It is dry stone from Dwarven Forge. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that. Next build, use real glass and actually fill the aquariums with water. No. Yeah, we did not hit the crab. I have a lot of Dwarven Forge. You guys who have watched the show in previous episodes where we play AD&D on Tuesday nights, you know I have Dwarven Forge that I put down for the group. I didn't have time this Tuesday. I ran out of time during the previous week. But yeah, I have put outrageous Dwarven Forge setups on this table before. The monitors and everything else kind of takes up a bit much space, so they have to be a little more conservative now, which is a shame. Sand table for my outdoor show. Yeah, I'm in Florida. It shouldn't be too much. I see, Ash, and I thought that. Oh yeah, I'll just take my my rotary tool, my Dremel, and just zip right through it. No, it just melts it and makes it angry at you. So I go looking online and it's like, oh, you just need to score it a little bit and then crack it. That makes perfect sense. Score it a little bit, snap, and it would just break, like splintered edges and stuff. It was horrible. When I build with styrofoam, if I cover it with diluted white glue, I can spray paint it without disintegrating. That's interesting to know collecting. I did not know that. Oh, greetings, Mark Hoover. So that's a little bit of the hobby stuff that I do as well. I have miniatures that I need to paint, but I'm making content for you guys. I don't have any time. I got to talk to some other hobby YouTubers who actually apparently do have the time, and yet they have bigger audiences and produce more content than I do, and they're just better at time management than me. You build a sand table in your basement. Let me show you guys real quick. I'm not sure if the lighting will really lend itself to this. Let me show you guys a little bit of Dwarven Forge here. I'm not sure how good this is or isn't going to look. I apologize in advance if this is crap. Let's see, is it studio view? No, it's tabletop. So there's a little bit of Dwarven Forge with some miniatures. But I have way more than that. Let's see. I have boxes on shelves that basically go from the far end of the studio all the way to just above this door right here. And they're about 2.5 feet spaced. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, about 22 of the old school box sets. Then I've got a tote with a bunch of individual pieces. And then I've got a tote that is full of the new Dwarvenite, which is the plastic kind of stuff. Paint while I blab with you guys. You draw. Oh, that's nice. Well, now you have to share your stuff with us. Now you have to show us what you draw. You speak for the peanut guy. Are these like fans from Georgia or something? Anyway, but thank you, Todd. Could you see White Plume Mountain run here on the channel? Maybe this summer. I'm not going to commit to anything. I have something in the works. Maybe, possibly this summer, and that's all I'm going to say about it. That's all I'm going to go into about it right now. But all kidding aside, thank you very much, Todd. Wow, we have gone an hour and 47 minutes. I like things to be nice and even. If anybody's got anything in the next 13 minutes, anything you want to ask me or anything you want to talk about, yes, Danny, there is a chance. There is a chance it could happen. There are things that are going to have to happen. A foray into Soj Camp. Now when I say I just finished, it was last winter. I don't mean like a few weeks ago. I mean like now now minus a year that I ran SojConf. There's not visually arresting stuff, and trying to set it up with just normal terrain, it just kind of looks jank. In the standard 90-degree angle dungeon pieces and even angled hallways. Do an old school Castle Blackmore campaign? Maybe not Castle Blackmore. I don't know that I could do it justice. Although, once upon a time, when I did my deep dive into original D&D, and I think this was just before we kicked over to 1,000 subs or just after, I did a deep dive into OD&D, and I had Yang Yan Zhao. By the way, subscribe to Storytime with Yang Yan Zhao on YouTube, please. And Dungeon Minister and T-Shirted Historian. But I ran Yang Yan Zhao through a tiny portion of Blackmore. He soloed the Temple of the Frog for a little while. So I'm saving painting minis for retirement. Yeah. What I think about GURPS, Hero, and Traveler. Old RPGs. I love them. I have shelves of them behind me. We play Traveler here on Wednesday. We will play Traveler for a few more weeks. The Viking Hat DM Kyle is running. Is wrapping up his Traveler game. Then we might switch to Conflict, which is an RPG that he wrote that is very lightweight. I will ask Heidi how her brothers are. I like classic role-playing games. I do. Hero System. From 89, it's like I said, my peers did not want to play AD&D much. So it's like 89 to 97. Lots of Hero System, lots of MERP, lots of Roll Master, lots of Space Master. My opinion, please, if I were going to buy Fiend Folio or Monster Manual 2, which would I recommend? Oh my gosh. So there are good Gygax monsters and good practical, fantastical monsters in both books, but there's a lot of dross in Monster Manual 2, and there's a lot of stuff in Fiend Folio that I'm just like, why did you accept monster entries in the Fiend Factory and White Dwarf magazine from people who are clearly drinking underage? Generally speaking, if the stuff in Fiend Folio is from the US TSR contributors or Lou Publisher, it's good. The stuff from the Fiend Factory submissions from readers of White Dwarf magazine in the 70s is not good. Monster Manual 2. Gary, Modrons are dumb. Demodans, Daemons, not good. We didn't need more dinosaurs. New Demons, New Devils, always good. Stuff like the Zaren, because Zorn weren't enough, so we have the Zaren. Changes to some monsters that were in modules. Like, I love a Sararak the Demi-Lich. I love a Sararak the Demi-Lich and how he's presented. The rules are changed up in Monster Manual 2. Don't like it. I would say if you took half of Fiend Folio and half of Monster Manual 2 and made the Fiend Manual the Monster Folio, you'd have one good monster book, but there's a lot of stuff you'd have to throw out. Good night, Christopher. Yeah, I hate that damn flump in attack tortilla. Yeah, Jack, I would take half the theme. There's a project for you. Buy the PDFs of Fiend Folio and Monster Manual 2, print and bind all the good monsters into one volume, and you'll have one good monster volume. If you use them with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, not with AD&D. Lou Publisher's monsters are great. Charles Stross actually submitted some of the good Fiend Factory stuff in the Fiend Folio. Does anybody want to take a wild-ass guess what those are? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? Gith Yankee and Gith Zerai. Get back to me on that. I think Grell are under awesomed. Like Grell should be throwing out mental attacks, not necessarily psionic, but Grell should be doing thing other than just being floating along, looking like a horrible monster from the Night of the Big Heat. So that's what I think of those monster books. 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes, and then we're wrapping up. Any more questions? You've had Monstrous Manual. I know you meant Monstrous Manual. See, everybody that I know hated the loose leaf Monstrous Manual. Yes, Lux, I am a huge fan. Thank you, Dav. I'm a huge fan. I am huge and I'm a fan of Avatar. Uncle Iroh's Delectable Tea or Deadly Poison. And then I have the Jasmine Dragon Tea House. It's a lovely emerald green T-shirt that advertises the Jasmine Dragon Tea House, the best tea in Ba Sing Se, where there is no war, by the way. You could do a hell of a lot worse, by the way, if you have kids, adolescents even, who are into Avatar, to spend a little bit of time watching that show, absorbing it, and crafting an AD&D game to fit into that. You'd have to ditch the magic system. You'd have to rearrange classes. But at its core, you could run a beautiful game of AD&D with that, geared for kids. I have not done a deep dive of AD&D psionics. Dragon Slayer or Lady Hawk. Oh. Overall film quality, Lady Hawk. Soundtrack, Dragon Slayer. John Wood is a phenomenal villain. Everyone in Lady Hawk is wonderful. The Bishop of Aquila. It's a tie between which of those two is his best role, the Bishop of Aquila or Stephen Falcon. I like that he plays a good guy in War Games, a warmer character, a guy you could say you loved. Like I would see like David Lightman in his later years viewing that guy in like an avuncular way, like this is my uncle, you know. Willow or Time Bandits? Both are lovely. I gotta give it to Terry Gilliam. Anything Terry Gilliam makes is this ridiculous, overcomplicated, over-designed clockwork thing of gears and crystals and delicate hand machined, like hand-tooled moving parts that you wind up, and when it's in motion, it's so beautiful, and if you touch it, it's going to break. So, Time Bandits. At 2.5 minutes, guys. Dragon Slayer did have Ian McDermott in it. I know. By the way, guys, if you want to support the show, if you want to support the show, the best thing to do is like and subscribe and click the bell icon. You can support us though on Patreon. You can support us on Subscribestar. You can always super chat, and you can of course buy me coffee. There's a little thing there, PayPal Direct, not that. You can buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/bsolvey if you want to throw a tip in, then that is awesome. D&D movie or a hammer to the knees? Is it one of those soft doctor's hammers? Because I'll watch a shitty movie and make fun of it. Are there monks in 1E? Yes, there are, Lux. There are monks in 1E. Absolutely, there are monks in 1E, and they're awesome. First edition monks would fit seamlessly into the world of Avatar. In fact, some of the things that they can do show up with certain monk-like characters in Avatar. Come to 1E, we've got monks. So, we're winding down, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. Tomorrow night, of course, Heidi Gygax, her husband Eric. They're going to talk about their awesome first edition AD&D. That's right, first edition AD&D, Watsy, module that they are kickstarting right now. Thank you. I want to thank everybody. For hanging out tonight. Grace and peace to you. Namaste, Big Yehuda. I want to thank Jeremy for the super chats. I want to thank you guys for being there. Everyone who's come to the show. Thousands of you have subscribed to the YouTube channel in the last week, and that is overwhelming. That is so awesome. And I'm going to say this. I love you all. Thank you all for hanging out and being here. I need to stream an hour longer when the chat is on fire like this. I got to rest at some point, Bob. Oh, thank you for subbing, Dram. I appreciate it. Thank you, Wade, Starlaw. But you guys be well, and I'll be back tomorrow night. And I hope you'll come, and I hope you'll talk to the First Lady, the Princess Regent. I'm not using the word regent properly. The Crown Princess of Dungeons and Dragons, Heidi Gygax, will be here. She and her husband Eric, and as I said, they're going to talk about their module. And now I'm going to leave you with the dulcet tones of Mr. Bob Antone and our closing credits. Take care of yourselves, guys.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.